So this video piqued my interest. It's from Willie. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of him. He's like a classic WoW mostly. He does a lot of WoW stuff though. And his video is called "This Happened in Retail WoW for a Reason. It Will Happen in Classic too." So we'll see what this is like. We'll see what this is like. I haven't watched this yet, and I'm curious what he's gonna be talking about.
Faction balance has been a pretty hot topic from day one of Classic. After all, it is one of the first choices you make when you commit to your character, Horde or Alliance. This choice will determine who you can interact with, trade with, communicate with, and play with before
Not anymore.
you can even log into the game. It's a pretty big deal.
On retail,
and on Classic, your faction matters. Well, it used to. Maybe that's less of the case nowadays. After all, we still do have the old school PvP and PvE
Damn,
server
look at that world
and
PvP
being the minority
going on.
faction on a PvP server is simply not an experience that many players would actively seek out. That lone warrior fantasy traveling the lands by themselves runs into problems when you realize so much of the content in the game quite literally requires a group, and you can't even go and pick herbs out in the open world without being ganked. Over time, we've seen a shift from somewhat.
I hated it. I played on PvP, dude, in Classic WoW, and I rolled a hunter, and I didn't really know exactly what hunter was like in Classic, and you can't disengage without being in combat, and disengage it's not even like a escape anymore. I don't even know what disengage did. You can only use traps in combat. So if a rogue or any melee, rogue warrior, whatever melee it was, got on top of you, that was it. You were just dead. The dead zone, yeah, the dead zone was huge. We could have to melee them. So let's say I got my ass kicked leveling up in Classic. I think I won 1v1 once. Wow, I'll say that 5 times fast. Against a druid. That's the one time I beat somebody in PvP.
Balanced servers in the early days of Classic,
they were really bad.
With a player base on the vast majority of servers actively sorting themselves onto realms where they are the majority. Realms where they are technically PvP tags, but where world PvP no longer happens. The 99% of one faction and the 1% of the other servers. And this has been a choice that the players have actively made, and that Blizzard has failed to stop. Nothing.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this balancing. Like, this actually really matters a lot in Classic. And your pet died very quickly. Yeah, that's true too. I miss old school WoW where hunters could dual wield and have ranged weapons. Yeah. Honestly, I kind of miss having a melee weapon and a quiver too. You know, it required more like gear for us, but it was just fun to have that. Yeah, this is bad. This is really bad. Like, imagine, like, because I feel like a lot of Classic players or WoW players in general, especially if they're new, they don't really look at this kind of data. So like, imagine if you start at Pagel and you're playing Horde. Or if you're on White Man and you start Alliance, you know, you don't even know, and then you just think the game's dead, and then you go around the world, there's like no auction house, there's no people to party up with, and then you might even just leave the game without even knowing. Like, I played on what server did I play on? It's dead now. It was really popping. Then everyone transferred off because they did like free transfers. It was an Incendious Horde I played on, and I think it was mostly Horde. Remember having to have an ammo bag that took up a slot and having to craft and pay for ammo just to auto shot. Yeah, I kind of miss arrows, but then again, I don't miss having arrows or bullets. That was awful.
Changing with how the servers work, it's been like a copy paste of what happened with the retail version of the game. Players realised more people are on a different server from themselves and ended up making the swap, be it from real money or a free transfer. Except in Classic, as it tends to be the case, things have happened at a much faster rate. After all, as we started with, your faction is inherently a massive restriction. It's required for such simple things in an online world, and of course players will trend towards the best, largest environment where interactions can happen.
Like, I have one friend that plays Classic WoW, and he plays on Faralina. I think I was an engineer, but ended up making ammo for the whole guild. Oh wow, that's cool. Professions in Classic are really cool. I think they're pretty cool now. They got better in Dragonflight, but I'm not like that into professions at all. But they're definitely cool when they're relevant. Like, they're really relevant in Wrath of the Lich King.
I even think the game would do better without.
Look at that, 100%. That means there's no Horde players on here. Not one Horde player.
Of factions. Let players choose their allies and their enemies within the game, instead of having such an arbitrary system which determines it for them. But then again, that wouldn't be...
The thing is, like, I don't know how you fix this. Like, I don't know how he's gonna say how to fix this.
Like, would it? And whilst the server situation may be a bit too far gone, if we look at the sources we have available, such as Ironforge.pro, about the total numbers of characters across both factions, they are not too far off from one another. About 47% Alliance to 53% Horde. A bit of a skew towards the Zogs, but nothing too crazy, I would say. If Classic has shown us one thing though, it's that if things don't change, history does tend to repeat itself. There's something which happened on retail World of Warcraft over a very long period of time. Something that has started to happen during Wrath of the Lich King, and something that hasn't been fully remedied and embraced as a major expansion feature until Dragonflight. What started off as flavorful racial bonuses has escalated into things such as sharding, war mode, and finally cross-faction play. And the same problems that led to these solutions will happen in Classic.
Damn, look at that.
I'm going to explain why something so small as a difference in racial bonuses led to Blizzard breaking down the faction barrier nearly 2 decades later. Ulduar in Wrath Classic is the right time to be making this video too.
Do you guys think they should do that for Classic WoW? Do you think they should get rid of like factions? I think it's obviously it makes more sense in Classic WoW because, like you said, there was that, you know, that was like the whole part of the game back then. It's like Alliance versus Horde, and I guess for Battle for Azeroth too, I guess it was more focused on that friction between the factions, but I'm not too sure. Yeah, honestly, looking at these old cutscenes back then, I'm like, whoa, the graphics are crazy.
Because throughout Classic so far, you've nearly always gone into a raid thinking, I wonder what the bosses will be dropping tonight, not, I wonder if we're going to be progressing any further on this boss tonight. Sure, there have been fights with a degree of challenge throughout Classic so far, but Ulduar will be a step up on another level, since it's the first raid to ever offer—
Hey, Sid the Sloth, thank you for the invite last week for Raz. Did you get your bow? I have not gotten the bow, Sid the Sloth. I am very upset. But it's going to drop 100% this week, without a doubt. I think after Kata, the whole faction thing should have been cut. That would have been a good point, because Cataclysm, like, well, Wrath of the Lich King was, like, the last of the trilogy, right? So, like, it could have gotten pushed back a little bit. You know, it could have been the right time for the change. Yeah, 100% Slid. Oldar best raid ever? I've never done Oldar when it was current content. And part of me wants to log on to Classic. I have a Hunter, level like 70 or 80. I'm geared out. I did all the Nax. Like, I did Nax 3 times with my guild, and then I got bored, and then I quit. Wow. I never did Oldar when it was current content. I started raiding during Trial of the Grand Crusader. So I was like 1 raid behind Oldar. And then I raided hard in Icecrown Citadel. Icecrown Citadel was my first cutting edge, I guess, whatever it was back then. And ICC was such a good raid, and I think I have a lot of bias towards it because it was my first big raid, my first raiding guild. I think it's like the honeymoon, the honeymoon phase in raiding, when you're your first raid guild and your first like raid kills, the first time you kill a raid. Oh yeah, playing on a PC at 20 FPS, dude. I was playing on my parents' computer, like our Dell, like the beige Dell color tower. That was just awful. I don't think it had a graphics card. I was playing at like 20 FPS, and when Cataclysm came out, my frost trap like stopped working. And I was like, wait, I had to open up a ticket. I was like, my frost trap isn't working anymore. I can't see it. And they were like, okay, let's see your specs. And I'm like, bro, your PC is a piece of shit. You need to upgrade. You got a potato.
An optional difficulty in hard mode, which has been specifically tuned up for a greater level of challenge. And whilst I can't—
I was rated in TBC, then some dude who was our healing officer, he made us download an add-on. Turns out the add-on had a keylogger and guild lost all its main heals. Oh no. Oh no, feels bad. I couldn't go within 20 feet of the auction house. My computer would crash. Yeah, times have changed. Those were the good old
Say
days,
how Trial of the
man.
Grand Crusader or Icecrown Citadel Heroic will measure up, because we don't know if Blizzard's gonna be buffing them or not. This trend of a divide between normal mode and heroic mode only grows the longer World
This
of
raid was really
Warcraft
fun
goes
too.
on. The first tier of Cataclysm, should we get there, will be hands down harder than anything in Wrath, and it won't even be close. And
Dude,
as raiding gets harder,
first tier Cataclysm honestly was so fucking lit. You had 3 raids. You had this raid, I forget what it was called, the 2 bosses. This raid was so fun. Both bosses were a blast. Last boss, Alakir, was just like crazy fun. That last phase when you're all flying and like you have to like dodge the storms and you're like going up. Oh, Alakir was a blast. I have like raid videos of my guild killing this. Alakir was a blast. Blackwing Lair, again, big raid, huge raid. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun bosses. Nefarian was the last boss. He was a blast. What was the other raid? Was it really Twilight? What was the other raid? Was it Twilight Citadel or whatever? I think it was Twilight Citadel. Oh man, I think it was Twilight Citadel. And that raid had Shogal as last. No, it was Shogal, and then Sinestro was the final boss on hard mode. It was like a secret boss. And Sinestro was so. I mean, Shogal was my favorite fight in that raid, but that raid was a blast. You had 3 raids. I don't know how many bosses. Like Blackwing Lair and like Twilight Citadel or whatever it was called were like full raids. That was like there were at least like 12 bosses and 3 raids to do. So this tier was popping. I don't know. I'm probably gonna try Classic WoW out. Bastion of Twilight, yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sid. Bastion of Twilight. That shit was so good. And Hunt Survival was so OP in this raid, and it was so fun. If they make Cataclysm, I am going to be playing this hardcore, man. I don't remember how the grinds were though. I don't remember like how the artificial grind was or what, but it was, the tier was solid. It was 40 man, 4 guilds. Oh damn. Oh, Mag Thurion. Okay. The huge raids. I don't know. I played Classic WoW. The huge raids were pretty fun, but like 40-man raids and stuff. But I didn't play like TBC at all. Even in Classic, I didn't play TBC. I didn't really get into it.
People look towards the top end for guidance, tips and tricks, and to see how they are setting up and building their characters, including, of course, racials. Now I just want to mention here, this isn't supposed to devolve into a what racials are best in Wrath Classic, or a Classic
racials
good
are actually
retail
like really
bad
important,
thing, or a but you guys have this for PvP so it's okay we have better racials in PvE thing. It turns out you give people a faction and they get rather tribal about it, and the thing is we know for a fact which racials were better and which...
I played around meta, dude. I played whatever, like I played Troll for Hunter, even though Orc was kind of better, but Troll just like looks cooler. It's kind of close still, but I feel like a lot of people play meta for, at least in Classic WoW, a lot of people play meta for racials because like they're so, some of them are just so powerful. Oh yeah, dude, remember Classic WoW and Molten Core, and we'd have like 1 Druid because no one played Druid in Classic WoW because they kind of sucked. And these guys had to buff like 39 people individually. Like that, like that's why like I wish Classic WoW had like some changes when it would just be like quality of life changes, you know? That just sounds awful. That sounds terrible. Oh, like longer raids, I mean? Oh, too much coordination, yeah. Well, I think we still have long raids, you know? I think like the current raid, Vault of the Incarnates is pretty long. What's it, 10 bosses? It's not like crazy. It's not like Throne of Thunder, right? How many bosses were in Throne of Thunder? Yeah, Paladin. Well, there were a lot of Paladins, I feel like, at least in my guild. And they were a pretty popular class. Actually, no, they weren't they? These Paladins sucked hard too. I guess you had like Holy Paladins, and then Prot and Ret were just like meme specs.
Which ones have the largest impact? A recent blue post on a change to Unholy Death Knight summon gargoyle ability in Classic even highlighted a specific example where a ratio made a huge difference to the point where this one...
Tell me how I was playing Classic Wrath, and we were doing Exoramus, and we had an Unholy Death Knight, and she required us to do like a 90-second pull timer. A 90-second pull timer for her opener rotation. Before we even pulled the boss, she was like min-maxing shit. I think Unholy Death Knight I think it's kind of like with like the Affliction Warlock kind of vibes going on, where you want to like snapshot your haste for your gargoyle, right? Don't you want to do that? She was like 90 seconds, dude. It was like, so it was crazy. But she was really good. She pumped, dude. She was doing like 99% parses. But I think the thing with Classic is like snapshotting is a thing. So and I think that was the case with Death Knights as well as with Warlocks. Yeah, no, yeah, she was pumping. Siege of Orgrimmar had 13. Reclearing it takes super long, so much running. Oh, I didn't really play Siege of Orgrimmar. I missed out on a lot of raids. I quit WoW, come back. Quit WoW, come back 2 years later. Quit WoW, you know. Yeah, she was pumping though.
Race combined with this class and spec.
Yeah, see, it's possible for players to snapshot over 370% haste and well over 400% for DKs who are also using trolls. I don't know if she was a troll, which reduces the casting of Gargoyle Strike from 2 seconds all the way down to 0.35 seconds for every cast while the Gargoyle is summoned. So your Gargoyle and your Army of the Dead pump when you have all that haste. It's crazy. She was like topping the meters.
Could beat anyone else in the game every single time.
It was nuts.
Put 2 people of equal skill, equal gear, who get the same RNG during a fight against one another. Player A is playing a troll, player B is playing, well, it doesn't matter to be honest, because player A wins every single time. And player B...
This wasn't really the case when this was like current content though. I mean, maybe it was in the high end like raiding guilds, but I don't remember no 90-second pull timers, dude. We didn't even get pull timers in Wrath of the Lich King, dude. We didn't get that at all. People are just like, oh, I'm pulling the boss. Okay. Everybody here? Oh, I think John's AFK, but okay, he'll come back. So much more casual. Now we have all the sweaty classic Andes, dude, coming in. Like, they have spreadsheets. They have freaking data points. They have, like, calculators. Not even on their computer, because their computer calculator can't calculate the algorithms and the data they need to. They have one of those Texas Instruments. It's nuts. These guys go hard.
It probably isn't going to feel too good about that either.
Easy.
Berserking has to be one of the most extreme examples of a racial which was left overpowered for so long it's hard to believe. I went and checked and it was only moved down from 20% haste to 15% in Warlords of Draenor. This is just one example of a racial that more performance-oriented players may look towards though. Even in Wrath of the Lich King right now, how big of a difference are these racials making at the top end? Well, I went through the logs for the top 100 players in raid damage for
Phase 1
and have a guess out of the top 100 players, how many Alliance were there? If you said a grand total of 0, you'll be right. Top 100 logs for overall raid damage in Phase 1, 100% Horde. I thought there might have been 1 or 2, so I decided to extend the search a bit. How many Alliance are there in the top 1,000 logs for Phase 1? 1,000 is a big number after all, and yes, there is going to be a few. It's not that bad. But if you said there was, out of 1,000 logs, 56 Alliance, that would be correct.
God,
and to be honest, 56. The majority are in 2 guilds, which are setting themselves up for passing success, but that's kind of how passing goes. So overall, if we look at the population for Horde versus
how
Alliance,
much was it at the start? It was like 11,000, and then it ended like at 9.5k. That is crazy. Yo, Ralph, get out of here with that.
Across all realms, you'll remember it's about 53% Horde players to 47% Alliance. Now,
I only played Horde in Classic because I was just used to Horde. But I kind of wish I played Alliance because, I don't know, this could be a debate. This could be controversial. Alliance have the cooler cities. And I think the cities are much more relevant in Classic WoW because you're there more, you travel there. You know, I think Ironforge and Stormwind, like, I mean, in Horde you have Orgrimmar. I mean, Thunderbluff's cool, but like you're never in a Thunderbluff, right? And then the Blood Elf city is just so detached from everywhere else. It's like you're never really in that city. I guess like with Horde, it's Undercity and Orgrimmar, right? Undercity kind of sucks. It's just annoying to navigate, and like it's kind of sucks. Let's be honest. Like Alliance, you have Ironforge and you have Stormwind. Orgrimmar is a dump. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Population for the top 1,000 performers in Phase 1, 95% of them are Horde, 5% reliance. But this all doesn't really matter, does it? The top-end Giga Min-Maxi players are always going to do the best.
Look at these guys. Look at these classic Andes. Holy shit.
And very high-end passing is sketchy anyways. It's just creative loopholes to get around rules to inflate your number on a third-party website. This is just 1% doing 1% things, right? Well, sure, it is at the moment. It seems truly unimportant. And many years ago, this was also the situation on retail too. However, much like the servers going from relatively balanced to monofaction, this will have long-term effects. And it does start right at the top.
Look at that, dude. That survival 100's pumping.
It also starts alongside raids getting harder. The top players start making the swap to the best race, not just to pass
they always
or to
do this.
speedrun, but to get the first clears in gear which can barely scrape by the DPS requirements.
This has never been new though. Like the Silvermoon City, yeah, man. Well, even like the Night Elf City is really sweet. Darnassus is sick too. But guilds have always been doing this. Like the top guilds always race change to the most OP race. Like it's okay. I think Paragon and Cataclysm, like they were all goblins at one point, or like a lot of them were goblins. They all like switched just for like a fight to have the mobility. I think I'm not too sure on that, but this is never a new thing.
And in Classic, we've had plenty of knowledge in advance of the faction to play to push performance more and more. And Warcraft logs that we just looked at, that really supports it as well.
Maxers will always do everything they can.
Classic, over the past 2 weeks, there were over 20 million individual passes logged worldwide.
Wow.
I think retail raiding picked up in popularity considerably over time too, but it isn't as big as it once was.
Classic WoW is still huge, huh? Greenman says complete cross-faction guilds dungeons now, please. I don't think they'd do that, but well, you know what they could do though? They could do that for like what's it called? What's not ahead of the curve? Like their like what's the like alternative realm stuff they have? Like what's supposed to be like new servers where they get like a experiences bonus and stuff. They could have like a new game mode of WoW where it's like cross-faction guilds, dungeons. They could do that for classic WoW.
Difficulties in retail, so it's kind of hard to see everything in one place. But as more people get invested into raiding and to look to the top end players,
hey Kappa, how's it going? Good morning, good morning.
For help, more and more people see the fact that if I really want to improve, I should be playing a certain faction. It leads to a mental reinforcement that if I want to be good and play with good players, I should be on the Horde.
Yeah.
This is the point where it starts to
honestly
not just be the 1% anymore. It's trickling down to players who are going to take one.
Like even, this is even like in Wrath of Lich King. Like, if you look at Warcraft logs, hold on, let's look at Warcraft logs right now, or WoW progress. It's changed a lot. But like, just look at WoW progress. All the top guilds are Horde. All the top guilds. I start, you know, obviously, like, you see some alliance here and there, but, like, the top 20 guilds, all Horde. And this used to be even worse than this. Like, let's go back to, I don't even know, let's just go back to, like, Crucible of the Storms. Yeah, the first, like, 100 guilds, all Horde. And we can go back, let's go Ruby's Sanctum. I don't even have data this back. Just when I freaking started first rating. Paragon. Oh, this was what tier was this? Tier 16. And yeah, it's been like that for years. It's been like this for years. Old deer. Oh, an alliance one? An old deer? Dang. So nothing's really new. Nothing's new.
1 month to clear the latest raid, but see and think they
Stream's
need to be playing
so
a certain faction to do so. Eventually Mythic raiding releases, raids start getting even harder. We also have Mythic Plus, another feature that's only available to players on your own faction. By this point there's been years of Horde dominance in the PvE scene. Do you want to guess when the last World First was won by an Alliance guild in WoW?
Wait, is it Old Deer?
Madness of Deathwing in Kata, and I'm just saying the world's best guild at the time, Paragon, who were Horde by the way, got a ban for this tier. That probably...
Look at that. I remember Vodka, Blood Legion. Yeah, I remember this, dude. Yeah, like Horde's always been the better faction for raiding, and Alliance is usually the better faction for PvP.
You should be Horde to compete and to be able to clear. It eventually came true. Enough of the player base that did want to push performance, that wanted to try high keys, that wanted to find a guild to move to Mythic, ended up moving to Horde. Alliance guilds made shifts towards playing on Horde.
How much do you guys want to bet like they kind of kept that intentional because the faction changed money? Spine of Deathwing. Yeah, that was a crazy fight.
Servers, and saw their pool of applicants go up 10 times overnight. Players invested in Mythic Plus made the swap and found the group finder full all day, every day. This was not the experience they could have had on the Alliance. And finally, from starting with the 1%, moving down to the semi-hardcore, this eventually hits the casual players, and this is where it really becomes a problem. My friends have moved to the Horde. I can't play the race I want to in a fantasy world due to faction restrictions. I was a casual player in a guild, and now they've left the server. They're all gone. Would you say this won't happen again on Classic, or the ball to get this whole situation rolling hasn't already set in motion? You know, the faction change feature in the cash shop came out in original Wrath, and Blizzard have mentioned plans to bring it back for Wrath Classic. It's just not in yet. There's going to be plenty of very swift re-rollers, I am betting. So can we stop this whole situation from happening again? Well, I mean, not having faction transfers helps a lot, if I'm honest. At least people who have invested so much into their character aren't going to want to make the swap, even if it meant they would be able to improve their raid performance. Perhaps this feature shouldn't come back to the game after all.
But I feel like the faction change isn't going to be that popular because we saw the servers. They're like 100% Alliance or 100% Horde. What's the point of faction change into the other faction if there's no other players on that faction, you know? So I don't know if this is gonna. I don't think it's gonna be as popular as it was
back then. Do we remove racials?
At all.
I mean, it would certainly work in the most boring way possible. And let's be honest, if racials were ever going to be removed, it would have been experimented with at some point.
I don't think racials should be moved. I think Classic Andy's take this way too serious. Like, the content is so easy. It's so easy. Like, you don't need to be min-maxing every single thing to do Oldar, do Naxxramas, anything. Like, I understand people want to be competitive, right? I understand that. I am a competitive too, but for me, I just can't get into it. I can't get into Classic WoW because it's just like, there's no challenge there. Personally, for me, like, I don't know. I think having unbalanced is like how the game used to be. The game used to be unbalanced as fuck. Like, play Classic WoW, like, Paladins suck, a Druid suck, Warriors are OP, Rogues are OP, Mages are OP. You're gonna have races that are just OP, and like, I think at this point, everyone knows already. Like, why would you change that?
Point by now in Arena, and it hasn't. I don't think this is even worth considering. Well, just to balance the racials then, duh. If only it was that easy. It can't.
Like, how long did like the first guild take to clear Oldar? Like, how long was that? Like a few hours? I don't even know.
Can't happen ever unless they are all the same.
Crazy.
Racials are a choice, and when you have a choice, there will be better and worse. That's choice for you. So should we just throw the floodgates open and have cross-faction play? If you remember, Classic has cross-faction battlegrounds.
That would be so fun. Since as early
as TBC. That
do it for Classic,
did
man.
Not happen back in the day.
That'd be so fun.
If PvPers can have it, what about the rest of us? Or do we just not need to think about this yet? Cross-server play was a thing long before cross-faction came in retail. And for Classic, it doesn't look like we're getting cross-server for PvE anytime soon, if ever. We still don't even have the looking for dungeon system in Wrath Classic. On top of that, the bigger servers in Classic are locked. Unless you already play there, you cannot move a new character there or make a new character. This has been the case for some time. One of the big things that kept the trend moving towards re-rolling Horde was that everyone knew the big servers, and since on retail they can split the population up via sharding, there weren't restrictions on the transfers as there have been in Classic. These two differences between the retail and the Classic versions of the game might be bigger than we think. Overall, looking at the situation, for me, I've seen what happened in the past and how top-end players are already heavily trending towards Horde in Classic. I can't help but think what's happened in retail will repeat itself in Classic, and as per usual, at a considerably faster rate. Perhaps how the servers are in Classic with locks and no faction transfers is doing more work than we give it credit for.
I don't know. I don't think it's too bad now. The graph said it was like, when he first showed it, it was 52% Horde and like 47 point whatever % Alliance. That's for every server.
This all won't be a problem until the casuals start to
all
feel
the servers
effect,
combined,
by which
so
time, of course,
it's almost 50-50, so it's not too bad.
it's far too late. But those are just my thoughts on the game after having played it for, you know, a little while. You reckon this will be an issue in Classic at all, where everyone feels forced to go Horde eventually? And is there a solution to this which you think...
Look at that, 47.4 to 52.6. That's not bad at all right now. I don't think if it's like Wrath, I don't think racials get any more, they change too much in Cata. I'm not too sure, honestly. But I remember they were OP in Wrath, and they're, you know, if that's the case, that's a good balance.
Realistically work. That's all for today, though. As always, thank you all so much for watching and to listening in. And I'll see
you
you
on the next
video.
one.